Blog Talk Radio.
Well, it's about that time. We had our show earlier, the Vegas Girl Vibes, Kimberly Bruno Houston, the wife of ex-ball player Tyler Houston, hosted that show with the lovely Jennifer Bel Castro. Now, as we move this podium, we land in Cleveland, Ohio. And this is the American Sports History Podcast, hosted by my good friend Peter Ray, live from Cleveland, Ohio. Without further ado, yours truly, Mark Mancini, producing this, 347-205-9631. Let me give him the podium, the red carpet, and the mic. Peter, how are you? Second of all, how can people get a hold of you? Third of all, you got one heck of a guest tonight.
I'm fine, Mark, and I have a YouTube channel. It's my name, Peter J. Ray, R-E-A. I have a website. It's called Adventures in History with Peter J. Ray, and I've made 673 history videos, including every year in Cleveland baseball history, going back to 1869, 171 videos. Tonight we have Jeff Frye. We're honored to have Jeff Frye, who played Major League Baseball from 1992 to 2001. He was a lifetime .290 hitter. And he has an organization called She Gone, which deals with trying to make improvement in youth baseball. It's wonderful to have you on the show tonight, Mr. Frye.
Thank you, Peter. My privilege, sir, to be on here with you guys, and hope you guys are doing well.
Right. Well, we'll have a good talk here. Now, my first question, when you got called up by the Rangers in 1992, was Bobby Valentine still manager?
No, actually, the day I got called up, I got to the airport at 5 o'clock in Dallas and got in the car driving to the stadium, and the driver said, yeah, they just fired Bobby Valentine.
Okay.
His last official act as manager was to call – I got called up with Brian Bohannon, so his last act as manager was to call you two up, so.
Did you see Valentine before he left?
No, I didn't. I mean, Bobby was the manager. I went to my first big league camp that year, so I was around Bobby during that time. But
during spring training.
Spring training. But when I got there, it was Toby Herrera. I think managers, when they get fired, they don't stick around too long.
Right. So, what are your memories of Bobby Valentine in spring training? I
mean, I don't have a lot of memories, honestly, because as a first-year big league camp guy, I mean, I was kind of nervous, and I just kind of kept to myself and just went out and played and didn't hardly talk to anybody. I just, that's kind of the way it was when I came up, is you didn't speak unless you were spoken to, and I kind of honored that tradition.
Now, you grew up a San Francisco Giants fan. Who were some of your favorite players as a boy?
My hero was Willie Mays, but I mean, there's a lot of Giants I liked. I love Willie McCovey, and then later on, Jack Clark, Jack the Ripper was my favorite player. But and then they had Vida Blue, John the Count Montefusco, Ed Halicki, Bill Madlock. I mean, the list goes on. I had so many players that I really liked.
Who was your favorite MLB manager during your career?
You put me on the spot, man.
We'll just say one of them, not your favorite.
The other one might get mad. No, I mean,
well, do you have any managers you'd like to talk about?
Well, I mean, I really like Jimmy Williams and Kevin Kennedy, but I mean, I like all the managers: Toby Herrera, Buddy Bell, Buck Martinez. I mean, almost every one of those guys played in the big league, so it's kind of hard not to respect those guys.
Right. What was your favorite year in Major League Baseball as a player?
Oh, probably 97.
312 and 127 games.
Yeah, I had a good year that year. The year before was good too. I got called. Actually, I went from AAA Oklahoma City right to Boston and did well. But both those years were probably my best 2 years.
Do you have any stories you want to tell that come to mind about players fellow players or managers from your that you'd like to share that come to mind? You have a lot of stories. Do you have anything? Oh, not much time, but anything that comes to mind at the moment would be fine.
Well, I got a real funny story about Will Clark, if you want me to tell that. Will Clark was
sure.
My teammate with the Rangers, and his nickname was the Sheriff. And he liked to police the dugout and police the bat rack, and he'd write notes about how many bats you're allowed to have in the bat rack. And so a funny story is we were playing in Boston against the Rangers. And kind of the way it worked is if you hit in your group of 3 guys and you were the first one out as an infielder to your position, you could be the first one to get ground balls. So a lot of times we wouldn't take the time to take our helmet and bat back to the dugout, so I just flick it by the cage on our side of the field and go out to be the first guy out to second base. So I did that, get my ground balls, to go in the game. I'd go to get my bat, and my bat is broken. And I remember using that bat in BP and remember it shouldn't be broken. So I kind of asked around the dugout, and I say, anybody know what happened to my bat? And Will Cordero said, yeah, Juan Gonzalez told me that Will Clark broke it. And I was like, really? Because he had this thing where he didn't want you laying your bats around. He wanted you to go into the dugout. So I got to first base 3 times that night. I think I went 3 for 5, and normally I would have talked to Will, but that night I didn't. I didn't say one word to him.
Okay.
And I told Matt Whiteside, who was the pitcher for the Rangers, I said, I need a Will Clark bat. We go to Texas not too long after that, and I get a Will Clark bat. Have my friend cut it up with a skill saw in 10 pieces. Okay, and I got a Reebok shoebox, and I put the bat in there. The night before was Will Clark giveaway jersey night, so I got a kid-size Will Clark jersey, put that in the box, and I put a note in there because the night before we got there, Will Clark hit a pop-up to shallow center, and Tom Goodwin, who was super fast guy, tagged up and scored the winning run on a sac fly to shallow center. And so I wrote in the note, I had a friend help me write it. I said, "Dear Thrill," because it was Will the Thrill. I said, "Thank you so much for breaking my bat in Boston. There were no hits left in it anyway. I thought I'd return the favor since you were so excited over your 180-foot sac fly last night, your friend Jeff Frye." And I put it in a box, and they delivered it over to the Rangers locker room. Joe Macco handed it to Will Clark, and he laughed and threw it in the trash. And fortunately, I got on base 3 times again that night. And every time I was like, "What's up, Will?" He's like, he started cussing me out and yelling at me, but it was all in good fun.
That's a good story. Very good. How about let's see, Toby Herrera was your manager. What can you say about Toby Herrera? He was a player here in Cleveland, so I remember him real well as a player.
Toby was no nonsense guy, but just a grinder type of player. He's the guy that could appreciate a player like me, and I love playing for him. I remember one of the first times I made an excuse on a play. It was a double play ball that I was expecting an underhand toss from Dickie Thon, and he kind of raced up and threw it, and it kind of messed my timing up, and I didn't turn the double play. I went back to dugout, and Toby goes, "What happened?" And I said, "I was expecting an underhand feed." And he said, "Let me tell you something." He goes, "Excuses are like, you know what?" He goes, "Everybody's got them." And they all shook, and he kind of stared at me, and I kind of walked away. I was like, man, I just made my manager mad at me. So I was sure never to make another excuse. And funny, later in the season, we played the Mariners, and Randy Johnson was pitching. And Toby told me I was hitting second, and he goes, "If Jack Doherty gets on, I want you to bunt for a hit." I said, "Okay." Sure enough, Jack got on. And I've never faced Randy Johnson. And this is a day game in Old Arlington Stadium where you can't really see the ball that well. And I'm facing the big unit. And he throws the ball. Then I go to square around. He throws a slider that broke the last second. I ended up not bunting, but had a really good at-bat and lined out to right field on a diving catch by Jay Buhner. I came back to the dugout, and Toby goes, "I thought I told you to bunt." And I didn't want to make an excuse. And I said, "Yeah, And he goes, "He's still on first base," and he yelled at me. This is the first inning, and my manager's mad at me. So now we go through the game. Randy Johnson strikes out 18 in 8 innings. He comes out in the ninth. They took him out because he had 163 pitches. But I was the only starter who didn't strike out. And I went 1 for 3 with a walk in that game. And the next day we're stretching. And Tom House, our pitching coach, goes, "Yeah, Randy was throwing 96 to 99 the whole game." And we're sitting there stretching, and Toby looks at me and goes, "Pretty tough to bunt that crap, huh?" I said, "Yeah, I didn't want to tell you, but I couldn't even see the ball."
Oh, that's pretty good. How about Buddy Bell? He was your manager. He was again another Cleveland player when I was a kid. He was your manager with the Rockies in 2000. Anything you remember about Buddy Bell?
Oh yeah, I remember Buddy getting mad. Everybody was always mad at me. I don't understand why. I remember. We had a 1-game makeup game in St. Louis. The only time I ever played in St. Louis, my entire career, and it's a day game. And we're getting late in the game, and there's a shadow at the pitcher's mound, but the hitter's in the sun, so it's kind of tough to see the ball. And it's getting late in the game, and Clint Hurdle's our hitting coach, and he tells a couple of guys to get ready. "Hey, we may use you right here," but he doesn't tell me anything. So I'm standing there on the rail, and all of a sudden, Buddy goes, "Frye, you're hitting." And I didn't have my helmet, my bat, batting gloves, anything. And so I scrambled to get all my stuff and get up there. And now he puts on the bunt, first pitch, it's a ball. And I could barely see the ball. It was really difficult to see the ball. And Mike Timlin's pitching, throwing about 96. And so now 1-0 count, he puts on a hit and run. And Timlin throws like a neck-high or chest-high fastball. And I got on top of it and smoked a line drive to right center field. And Sean Dunston came in and misjudged it and jumped up about 5 foot in the air, it seemed, and made an incredible catch. And I was out and came back to the dugout, and Buddy screaming at me, "Hit the ball on the ground!" And I was like, man, I thought I did a pretty good job of even making contact on the pitch, and he was pretty upset about. But he's another old school guy, you have a job to do, you got to do it.
Okay. That's another good story. I want to throw some names at you that popped out at me from your career based on guys who either played for Cleveland or guys I'm familiar with, and maybe you can, if you have any stories about any of them. Let me just give you some names. Ivan Rodriguez, Rafael Palmeiro, Dickie Thon, Juan Gonzalez, Ruben Sierra, Brian Downing, Julio Franco, John Cangelosi, Jose Canseco, Nolan Ryan, and Mike Jeffcoat. Anything come to mind from those names? Any of those names?
Well, I was playing. I was actually had the day off in Old Cleveland Stadium the day that Jose took one off his head. The Carlos Cafe Martinez, who I played against in Venezuela, hit the ball to right center that Canseco claimed hit off his glove, hit off his head, and went over the fence for a home run. It's one of the most famous bloopers.
Oh, that was in Cleveland, right?
Yeah, Old Cleveland.
Old Cleveland. Cleveland Municipal Stadium.
Yeah, and
okay.
I mean, actually, my first game in the big leagues, my first series was against Cleveland, and my first hit was against Scott Scudder in Old Arlington Stadium. I remember taking out Carlos Baerga the first time I was in a situation to take out a runner at second on a double play ball, and I knocked him to the ground. And I didn't realize what I had just done, but the next inning, there was a double play situation for us, and the ground ball to the left side, they threw to me, and I looked up, and Mark Whitten was about a foot away from me. I turned the double play, but realized that because I had taken out Baerga, these guys were going to come after me now. And an inning or two later, another double play situation with Albert Bell on first base, and ground ball to the left side. I go to turn a double play, and Albert Bell never slid. He ran straight through the base, and I adjusted my throw to throw over the top of him, and the throw was a little bit high, and Palmeiro tried to stay on the base and catch it, and it nicked off his glove and went to the dugout for an error in my first game. I'll never forget that.
Okay, let me throw some other names at you here. Toby McDowell, Chris James, Billy Ripkin, Gary Reedus, Rick Honeycutt, and Bruce Hurst. Anything from those guys?
I've got a story about every one of those guys. Which one do you want me to tell? I can tell you one about Rick Honeycutt. Rick Honeycutt. And he was a crafty veteran, and kind of back in the day, the pitchers had their little tricks that they did to the ball sometimes. We won't call it cheating because it was kind of the trade craft. So Rick Honeycutt one time was pitching, and I got a ground ball to second right to me, and I went to throw it and almost threw it away. The ball moved about 2 feet, and the first baseman made a great play to catch the ball, and I went to the dugout, and Honeycutt says, "Make sure you get a good 4-seam grip on the ball when I'm pitching." I said, "Okay." So I don't know what he was doing to that ball, but it didn't go straight. Who were the other ones you said? Toby, Young again, McDowell.
Toby McDowell, Gary Reedus, Billy Ripkin.
Billy Ripkin. Oh, man. Billy Ripkin used to mess with me all the time. One of my favorite teammates, one of the funniest teammates I ever had. A funny Billy Ripkin story was we were playing really bad with the Rangers, and Johnny Oates, who was a Christian guy who didn't really get too hot or too heated at us, just ripped us and tore us a new one in the locker room and took the magazine rack and threw it on the ground. It was just, he was all over us. And, when you have those type of meetings with your team, everybody's kind of down afterwards, it kind of can linger. And I remember Johnny was done, and the second Johnny walked around the corner, Billy Ripkin had a cup of ice, and he threw the ice across the floor in the middle of the locker room in front of everybody. He said, "Yahtzee! Let's go, boys!" And everybody was immediately fine.
Okay. So he could lift guys' spirits. Oh,
absolutely. And
very
he
important.
Me big time. Yeah.
Okay, how about Otis Nixon, Mickey Tettleton, Candy Maldonado, or Sam Horn? Any of those guys?
Oh, yeah. Well, Otis, when I think in 94, Otis was the leadoff hitter, and I was the 2-hole hitter. So I would always hit in Otis's group during batting practice. Normally they would hit, say, the first 3 guys in the lineup, the next 3, and the next 3 would be your group. And, the first guy to jump in the cage is the leader, so he determines how many swings you take each round during your, 15 minutes you have for your group. But Otis was a terrible counter. So Otis would take, it seemed like 8 to 10 swings. You say, "Otis, how many?" He goes, "Oh, 5. We're like, "5? You just took 10. And it seemed like he did that all the time, so we'd give him a lot of crap for that. But, no, I had a lot of fun. When I got injured in 94, I pulled a hamstring. At the time, Otis was first in the league in hits, and I was second.
Well, that's something. Now, Mr. Frye, you are a huge San Francisco 49ers fan. Would you like to talk about that?
I'm still depressed that we lost the Super Bowl this year. I thought we had it wrapped up. Yeah, I've been a 49er fan my whole life. You already mentioned that I was a Giants fan, but growing up in California, my Uncle Peter kind of brainwashed me and said, "All right, you're going to like the Giants and the 49ers, and you're going to hate the A's and the Raiders." So that's what I did. And,
okay.
When Bill Walsh came to San Francisco and Joe Montana did what he did, and the 49ers became a juggernaut, man, I was on top of the world. And then, followed by Steve Young, and then it's such a dry spell. I know we made a Super Bowl a few years back with Colin Kaepernick, but now it's so exciting this year. I really haven't watched a lot of football, NFL football. Watch it a little bit occasionally, but man, I was glued to the TV this year, and yeah, I'm pretty optimistic about the future for the 49ers.
Now, let me give you some more names from your playing career. Mo Vaughn, Mike Greenwell, Jose Canseco, Reggie Jefferson, Will Cordero, Bill Selby, Kevin Mitchell, Nomar Garcia-Parra, Jeff Monto, Alex Cole, Scott Hatterberg, Trot Nixon, Roger Clemens, and Tim Wakefield.
Yeah, there's one you didn't name that I really like. I could tell a story about every single one of those guys, but one you didn't name that I have a great story about is Tim Neary. Remember Tim Neary?
Tim Neary, I do not.
Tim Neary was a third baseman, and he was a stud, and he just had some back trouble. But I think it was 96. I just got to, not come up with the Red Sox or gone to spring Red Sox. I basically had the bats that I had when I was in AAA for Oklahoma City, so I was kind of having to borrow guys' bats and things like that, and rely on our clubhouse manager anytime we needed bats. And sometimes you'd run out of bats before your bat order came in. So Timmy and I were both in the same situation. We were both down to the bottom of the barrel of the bats we wanted to use, and we got a bat of 6 bats that we had to share. And normally you wouldn't think that major league players would have to share bats. And made a deal that we weren't allowed to use our gamers in batting practice because you might break it in batting practice. So you could only use them in the game. So I was hitting before Tim. I was either hitting second or him third or me first and second. And so we made a deal with the bat boy that after pick up the bat that I used and bring it over to Timmy so he could then use it. We're having to share bats in the big league. So he would bring another bat to the on-deck circle and act like that's the bat he was going to use, and the bat boy would kind of sneak over there and hand him the bat that I used. But we actually had to do that in the big league.
Now, that's interesting. Before we run out of time here, if you'd like, maybe you can talk about She Gone and your thoughts on youth baseball.
Yeah, well, the whole She Gone thing kind of started as an accident. I was just making fun of a video I saw on social media, and got a lot of backlash from people who teach what a lot of us think are the incorrect ways to teach kids. It's not the basic fundamentals. It's kind of this new uppercut swing that doesn't work for everybody. And made a couple videos, and I'm getting attacked by the people who teach this thing. So I just continue to make it, and so many people have joined in. I've gained over 5,000 followers on Twitter in 3 months, and now we're making She Gone T-shirts, and really the whole movement is a bunch of people that love this game, all played this game, and not necessarily at the highest level, but were taught by their dads, their uncles how they get it. And a lot of people that haven't never played this game at a high level are telling us we're wrong and we were no good, and so that's kind of how we got started. But I think there's a lot of issues with youth baseball, with the select baseball. Kids are getting overused, and the kids in a weekend in a major leaguer. It's not good for them. It's not healthy. Injury, and when you turn it into a job and it's not fun for these kids, they're not going to keep playing. And I just think that you got to get back to the grassroots of the game and let these kids have fun. And if they're having fun, they're going to keep playing. That's what we want.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I got some more names for you. Will Cordero, Jason Veritek, Brett Saberhagen, and Pedro Martinez.
Texas, very intense guy, high energy guy that first came from Seattle. He made an out, dugout as fast as Jason. He would literally get past first, and he would sprint to the dugout. That's what happened on. It seemed like in a minute. And so we used to mess with him, and Jimmy Williams was the manager, and I was like, man, Tech, that was like a world record that time.
Yeah, I didn't hear all that. You're breaking up here, but go ahead.
No, he just said that stay out of Veritek's way. Stay out of caller type player.
Yeah, you're breaking up.
Did you lose me? Did you lose me?
Yeah, we're losing you.
Okay, how about now?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, yeah. So what part did you miss about Tech?
I think the whole thing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Yeah, so Veritek was a very intense guy, just always going really fast. So we kind of messed with him a little bit, rack guy.
Yeah, we're losing you again.
In about a month. Are you? I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Hello?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I'm here.
Okay, we're having technical difficulties.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. I'm
sorry about that. Yeah, so anyway, Tech was just a high-intensity guy that we messed with a lot, and he would ground out to first or ground out to the infield and be back in the dugout with his equipment on in less than a minute, and so we'd mess with him. And Jimmy Williams told me to stay out of his way. He goes, stay out of his way, Frito. So I did. He had a great career.
How about Todd? Okay, Todd Helton, Julian Tavares, Tony Martinez, Pedro Borbon.
Oh, well, Todd Helton, he was only my teammate for 2 months, but, man, one of the best players I ever played with, without question. I mean, this guy was unbelievable. I think he hit 370-something in 2000 when I was his teammate with the Rockies and won the batting title, and just an incredible player, great defensive first baseman, and just probably the best leader I've ever played with in baseball.
Todd Helton.
Yep.
Did Brett Saberhagen ever talk about the '85 Royals?
No, not really. But, I mean, I was real good friends with Sabes. I still am. But, I mean, he really didn't talk much about that. And when I played with Sabes, he was, coming off shoulder surgery. So he wasn't the guy who came up with the Royals who was, I know that Sabes would throw fastballs for the first 5 innings and get away with it. And that's all he would throw. So he's a guy that could overpower guys, and he wasn't really didn't have that same arsenal when I played with him with the Red Sox.
Did Pedro Borbon ever talk about his father?
No, not really. Not really. I do remember in Toronto, I went out to warm up Pedro one inning. I wasn't playing that day, so sometimes I would go out in between innings and warm up the pitcher. And so this one day I went out to warm up Pedro, and he signals fastball, and he throws this ball that cuts down and in and almost broke my thumb, knocked the glove off my hand, and I just stopped and walked in the dugout. And he wasn't even done warming up yet.
Okay. Well, his dad was part of the Big Red Machine.
Oh, I know. I know who his dad was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now we have, let's see, we got a couple minutes. Do you have any other stories or anything you'd like to say about your career, your life, or guys, or whatever?
No, I mean, I don't know, buddy. I just have so many stories. The day I got called up was a pretty awesome day. Somebody just posted a video the other day of me hitting a walk-off home run, which is a pretty cool deal. I played against the Twins, and Darren Lewis and I hit back-to-back home runs in the 9th inning. I hit a walk-off home run. The next day I got 3 hits. So I had 7 hits. I was 7 for 9 over 2 days. The next day I went to the field and I wasn't in the lineup. And I was the night before I felt something pop in my knee, but I didn't tell anybody. So I wasn't even sure that I'd be able to play, but I thought I probably should play since I had 7 hits in 2 games. and I was in the hot tub in the whirlpool, and Jimmy Williams, the manager, walks in, and he kind of just looks at me. He was, funny guy, and he goes, "Frito," he goes, "you got 7 hits in 2 games, and you're not in the lineup. Stupid manager, stupid manager." He goes, "Should have got 8," and he walked away.
Okay. Well, Mr. Frye, we're out of time. Thank you so much for taking your time and sharing these wonderful stories about your outstanding baseball career. And good luck to you with your efforts in youth baseball, because that's certainly a worthy endeavor.
Well, thank you very much, Peter. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties, but I appreciate you having me on, buddy.
Oh, thank you. And, dear listener, may the road rise to meet you. May the wind be at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face and rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand.